Hi everyone. Welcome to I don't know what to call this. This isn't These People Hate Cinema. All right? We're not here to criticize a bunch of grifters today. We're doing something a little bit different. And hey Blackwing, nice to see you, man. And what we're doing today is just going down my top 10 favorite movies. I spent this like last 4 days rewatching like a lot of these movies because I'm the kind of guy who I like to space out how often I watch my favorite movies because no matter how good a movie is, your experience with it dilutes the more you watch it. Like for me, the worst examples of that are The Dark Knight and Inglorious Bastards. Those are movies that the first time I watched them, loved them, fantastic. To this day, I still have like very cherished memories of like watching those movies in theaters and just falling in love with them. But I saw them so many times in theaters that ever since then, like it doesn't hit the same, and it sucks. So those two movies taught me to space these out a little bit. So yeah, these last couple days have just been making up for lost time. And honestly, like doing that, just sitting down and just watching my all-time favorite movies day after day after day after day. It's fucking awesome. I really cannot tell you how much fun I had these last couple of days, like just going through one of these movies, one after the other, and just like, oh, this is why I love this so much. And this is, you know, why it meant so much and why, it informed so much of my taste, of my, my personality to some extent. Because there's two movies where everybody who knows me says that like I'm that, but we'll get there. And not just that, but like what I was really surprised when it came to coming up with this list is like how many of these movies have been with me since I was a kid. I mean, not all of them. You're gonna see them go all over the place in time, both in when they came out and when I saw them. But primarily, like it's weird because music, movies, it's all art, right? Like it's easy to think about it the same way. But I think a lot of us understand that the music we love between like 12 and like 23 is the music we're gonna love forever, and we kind of stop kind of looking for new music slowly after that. And movies, they're not exactly the same, at least not for me. Like I make it a point to, oh hey, cheers to Canada. Oh, cheers everyone from Canada. Thank you. Yeah, I want to go to Canada so bad someday. But what was I saying? Yeah, God, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, like a lot of these movies, don't get me wrong, I still try to keep up with movies and music, way more successful with keeping up with newer movies. But yeah, a lot of these, except for like a couple, are movies that I saw. Uh, oh no way, you were an extra on The Water Boy? That's sick, dude. I'm Troy McClure. You might remember me from being an extra on The Water Boy. And that's true, by the way. What it says right there is totally true. I used to work at a pizza place, and the owner of it, yeah, he knew I was a movie geek. So one day it was super slow, and we just started talking. He was like, "Oh yeah, I never told you this, but I'm one of the kids at the end of The Godfather when Michael and Kay have their uh Rad, Rad Troy. What's Troy? I don't know what Rad Troy is, but I'm assuming that's super great. But oh, thank you. Oh, the Rad Troy McClure voice. Right. I it's just kind of like a version of my rich snob voice, but it's fun to do. But yeah, he was one of the little kids at the end of The Godfather when Michael comes to talk to Kay in San Francisco. They actually shot it in San Francisco, and he grew up there, so they were looking for extras, and he showed up, and yeah, you could see him in the movie. He actually like I remember he told I think he wore like a red shirt and like a cap. I could be wrong though. It's been a long time since I talked to him. It's been a long time since I worked those kinds of jobs. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started here. And before I kind of get off to my sort of official list, I'm going to go ahead and just rattle off really quickly a couple of honorable mentions that didn't make the list, but if it were like a longer one, clearly it would have been on there. Top 10 favorite movies, dude. Honestly, like I'm not really. I used to like look down a little bit on the whole ranking thing. I used to think it was a little like I don't know, like I don't know. There's like a weird vibe about it, right? But honestly, like doing this for the past couple of days has just been the funnest, just the absolute funnest, dude. I recommend it for sure. And if you do it, man, send me the link. I'd love to see it. But yeah, let's go ahead and get some of the honorable mentions out of the way. And the first one that I want to bring up is The Lost World Jurassic Park. I know it's kind of a controversial one, but what I think about The Lost World is that it's almost a perfect sequel to Jurassic Park, in my opinion. And the first two acts, it has their flaws, sure, it has a lot of flaws, but in terms of just like pure filmmaking, the first two acts are like some of the best the series ever had, in my opinion. Um, especially the action set pieces in this movie, like one after the other. They're all fantastic. Um, Unfortunately, the movie literally drops the ball in the third act, the 76 ball, if you know, you know. And just completely it's something that the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which also almost made my honorable mentions, but it's just a little the script is a little too shit, in my opinion. But it's something that Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom fixed where it made instead of like putting what should be like a major plot point in the last 10 minutes of your movie, it's actually like the second half of the whole movie, by which I mean the dinosaurs making it onto the mainland. The next one that I want to highlight is Under the Skin. I forgot the name of the director on this one, so you're gonna have to forgive me on that. But Under the Skin is one of the most harrowing movies, franchises or lists that are smaller in nature. Top 10 favorite movies is too difficult to quantify personally. I was thinking about this for a long time before I announced it. I get that 100%. But yeah, with Under the Skin, it's just like a harrowing movie, like just going on this journey with Scarlett Johansson's character as you know, she gains humanity slowly through essentially just viewing the ugliest parts of human nature and all that. Jonathan Glazer, yes, that's the one who made Under the Skin. 100%, yeah, that's him. But I love that movie. I love that movie weaponizes Scarlett Johansson's beauty so well. Like, I mean, I don't think she's ever been more naked in a movie that I could think of than in this one. And like the way that they shoot her, like it's alluring and all that, but how like you guys, you know, I don't know if you guys are Metal Gear Solid fans, but before Metal Gear Solid 5, Hideo Kojima was like this character quiet. Yeah, she's scantily clad, but once you learn something about her, you're gonna feel really shitty about finding her like, you know, attractive and all that. And of course, the game fails at that completely. But this movie actually does that. This movie like puts Scarlett Johansson's body in front of you, and then like spends the whole rest of the movie being like, "Yeah, don't you feel like an asshole?" And I just think like, I mean, there's way more to the movie than that, of course, but in terms of like what is the most impressive about it, in terms of like filmmaking, it's definitely that. I want to give another quick shout out to Spring Breakers. That's Harmony Korine's movie. Ghibli movies will be on my top 10. Dude, there's so much stuff that didn't make it on my top 10. Like so much. I'm gonna give it another quick shout out to just a bunch of directors before I go into my full top 10 real quick. But Spring Breakers is a Harmony Korine movie. I'm not the biggest Harmony Korine fan, but with Spring Breakers, I feel like everything came together. Like I view it as like the most honest mask off representation of the American dream as we know it in modern times. And it's also just fun, you know. It's just like a fun movie to watch. It's incredibly like hypnotizing and enthralling. It's another movie that also weaponizes sexuality in a different way. Like it just plasters ass and tits so much that it almost becomes like white noise. And yeah, and you know what the movie kind of ultimately says about I guess you could say what's the word I'm looking for here? Appropriation to some extent, and you know, crime and all that. Like I just think it's a fucking one of the most like biting fuck yous to like society that I've ever seen. The Florida Project is another recent movie that I saw. I love that movie because like as someone who also like I didn't grow up that poor, you know, but you know, we definitely were not the richest family, and I just think this movie very beautifully portrays what it's like to be a kid, you know, in a family that's still like, you know, not in poverty, but like essentially like struggling. and all that, and the unique experiences, and most importantly, at the end, the unique heartbreaks. Oh man, that ending! Oh my god, I didn't want to think about it, but yeah, that ending is one of the most savage like punches in the gut that I've ever seen in a movie, and just yeah, that movie stuck with me for a long time. Sorcerer, the William Friedkin, his follow up to The Exorcist, super underrated. If you love good action, especially if you like one of the movies I'm going to mention a little later, you have to see Sorcerer, because it just like real edge of your seat, classic action like in the 70s. You know, one thing that I love about the 70s is that in the 70s, special effects like still weren't super fucking awesome. The 80s is when special practical effects really came into their own. But the 70s, like you still just have to go fake, just do the thing, right? And this movie is just like a lot of like dangerous situations where they just do the thing. And there's one scene on a bridge, probably the most famous part of this movie, that every time I see it, like I just like grip to the edge of my seat. And one last one that I want to give a shout out here is Bong Joon Ho's Mother. This one was very hard to leave off the top of my list. The only reason why it didn't make it on there was because I didn't have the time to watch it like before I did this. Unfortunately, so I really can't give you guys the freshest take on it. But Mother is, it's up, it's kind of like Memories of Murder in terms of it being a murder mystery, but you're kind of in the center of the murder. You're not in the police like outside perspective looking into what happened. You're in the middle of it. And again, like I'm just a sucker for a great fucking ending. This is Bong Joon Ho's best ending to a movie, flat out. Period. Memories of Murder is up there, maybe like second, but this one is just like God. I mean, you just kind of have to watch it, right? And there's a lot of directors that did not make it onto my list that I really just want to take a minute to give a shout out because I love all of their works, but it just none of them were in my top 10, and that's unfortunate. Uh, Sorry, I thought I heard something. Um, David Fincher is a big one. I'm a huge David Fincher fan. Unfortunately, none of his movies made it onto my list. David Lynch, other director that I really enjoy, who didn't make it onto my list. Lars von Trier and Michael Haneke. I kind of see them as two sides of the same coin. They unfortunately did not make it onto my list. Quentin Tarantino also didn't make it onto my list. Darren Aronofsky also didn't make it onto my list. A lot of people did not make it onto my list, but trust me, I love all their works. I've seen them almost all of these directors' movies. I think there's like one or two that I'm missing here or there. Hi, Lindsay. But yeah, that's it for the preamble. Let's get into it, guys. Let's go ahead and get into my number 10 movie, and that's going to be a very recent one, and that is The Green Knight. Now, I did IF and Love Cinema, pretty lengthy one actually for that series a few weeks ago. So this is the one I'm probably going to talk the least about. There's going to be a lot of like reasons why I love that movie in that list or in that video if you want to see it. I'm just going to go ahead and just touch on a couple of the big points here very briefly. I saw this movie for Miyazaki. That's the thing. I mean, I've only seen Ponyo, Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, and that's it. I need to see more. I've loved them all, by the way. I need to see more Ghibli movies for sure. Miyazaki really does have a magic, especially Ponyo. Man, god damn, Ponyo. Okay, now I'm talking about a different movie, but Green Knight. Yeah, Green Knight. This is a movie that I fell asleep watching in the theaters 4 or 5 times, and it's not because the movie was boring. It was because I was really high. It was super high when I went to go see it. But like after a while, like the thing is, I kept coming back for a reason, right? Like everything that I saw of it each time was just like super instantly. As soon as I woke up, I was like, oh fuck, what's going on? And just so like engaging and just like instantly without like just looking at it for 2 seconds, just captured my imagination every time that I woke up watching it. um, but so the fifth time that I went to go see it in theaters, I decided to go sober, and it was an incredibly powerful experience, because oh yeah, The Green Knight. Not only does it look amazing, but it's a great movie. It's a movie that essentially gives like well, this is something that's probably going to come up a few times moving forward. But it's a movie that treats its main character like a little shit because he's a little shit, you know. And it's a movie about someone who starts off being kind of really selfish, really doesn't care about much but himself, and then it's like I mean, there's a lot of ambiguity in this movie, but my read of it is like his mom being like, "Okay, I gotta get this. I gotta get this. I gotta kick this kid in the ass or something." Oh, thank you, Uber Comrade. Thank you. So yeah, that's how the movie kicks off, and it's ultimately a movie about legacy, about legend, and it's about how we define ourselves. And what this movie does really well is that it presents those sort of values that society celebrates, and especially that we um essentially especially ascribe to men, those certain characteristics that we view as noble and stuff like that. Like they get deconstructed in very interesting ways, in ways that are incredibly humanizing, in ways that are reflective, that make you reflect a lot and on your relationship with those concepts and all those things. I mean, one thing for me that I really related to when I was watching this movie, I really saw a lot of myself back when I was, actively making movies. I'm still, I still want to make a movie. I'm planning on making a movie sometime soon. But back like in my early 20s, like back to back to back to back, movie after movie, and I was so dedicated to it because I was like, this is my dream. Like this is what's going to define me, and this is who I am. And don't get me wrong, like that chapter of my life is a whole ass story. So I'm not going to bore you guys with the detail here. Maybe some other time. But when I was I guess more of an active filmmaker. It's hard to say that I'm not because I'm not done. I never gave up on it. It's just life got in the way. But anyways, yeah, like when I was doing that, I was definitely chasing this greatness. And don't get me wrong, like I'm really proud of my movies. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about them, but I love my movies. I'm very proud of them. And the thing is that like I was so inexperienced. I was so inexperienced, and I didn't understand that at the time because I was so young and naive, right? But I was young and naive, and it's crazy that I even made those movies because I've gone through so little. The fact that I made those movies and that they were like these things, like it's crazy, right? And for a long time, for reasons that I won't get into here, when that was taken away from me, well, I mean, that's kind of what happened. Like, I used to have like a $10,000 worth of film equipment. I made 3 movies with that, made a couple of music videos with that as well. And then when I was literally like the day that I finished editing my third film, Escaping a Spinning Room, I went to a party, and luckily like I had it up, like it was uploaded and I had it like a copy there. And don't get me wrong, I uploaded everything, so I was able to go back a year later and finish it and put it together. It's on YouTube now. But yeah, when that was taken away from me, I thought like I went through this huge identity crisis, man. Like I started partying a lot. I started doing a bunch of dumb shit because like it felt like someone took something from me, and it sent me into this despair, and I had to crawl myself from that despair to where I am now. And when I see The Green Knight, like I see myself in Guy Wan kind of going through that journey of like, he really like starts off and he doesn't even understand how good he has it, and then he's troubled, and at the end, depending on how you read that movie, how you read the ending, either he cowered out, or he fucking lived up to the moment. And the best part about it, right, is the way I read the ending is very optimistic. It's an ambiguous ending. I'm not going to ruin anything here. I'll let you guys watch it. But what I loved about my interpretation of the ending is that it's kind. Is that it's so throughout all that time of my life, I kept like doubling down on like being my worst self because it was constantly like, well, like I'm already doing this, I might as well do that and all that shit because I was so fucking hard on myself because I was so disappointed in like, yeah, like they took my shit, but like it was a whole thing. And so that didn't end for me until I let myself be kind to myself, to others, and I let others be kind for me, be kind to me, and I allowed that, and I accepted that for the first time in my life. And to me, that's why I love the this movie so much. It's about a guy who does not become whole until he understands like his place in everything, and he had to earn that, you know, through going on this journey that he probably should have gone on way earlier in his life, but better late than never, right? And yeah, that's why I love the Green Knight, you know, and it's a movie that I just like every time I see it, it just helps me put more closure on that chapter of my life. And it makes me grateful also. It makes me grateful that I went through that, that I've explored the limits of who I am to their fullest extent. And now I have a good idea of who I am as a human being. And look, like I said, I have a movie that I'm like working on. So that's not gonna go away. But also like I love my life. I love the life that I made for myself. Like I have like me and Lindsay are great. Like I have a good job. Like things are looking up for us. Like things have never been better for my friends and my family. Like everything's cool, man. Everything's good these days. And for a while that wasn't going to be so certain, you know. So I understand, like especially when it comes to this movie, the struggle and the journey. And it is a journey, and it feels like a journey, and it should feel like a journey to become whole and to become yourself wholly, completely, and unapologetically. And yeah, that's the Green Knight. That's why I love it so much. It's my number 10 favorite movie of all time. But that's a really heavy movie, so we're gonna go ahead and just go on to my number 9 movie, the motherfucking Lion King, aka you know, Hamlet with animals. And I got the 4K, by the way. I got the 4K of the Green Knight, and I mean it's sounds and looks like God. That's all I'll say. But yeah, goddamn, the Lion King. I'm not the biggest. I'm not the biggest. Oh, let's see what Black. His number 10 is Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Side of Dimension. Great duels and an amazing story as well. And the great end to the manga. And rest in peace, Kazuki Takahashi. All right, man. You know, I never really got too into Yu-Gi-Oh, but right on, dude. Good stuff. So yeah, the Lion King. God, this is a movie that I saw in theaters opening weekend, and I just remember what I love about The Lion King is that it's everything. It's everything that's great about cinema, packaged in a very like accessible thing for a kid. And I mean, you could say that about any Disney movie, right? But this is my movie. You know, this is my Disney movie. This is the pretty much the only Disney movie that I'm like super attached to. Like a Goofy movie and Emperor's New Groove are up there too, but the Lion, but none of them come close to how much I love the Lion King. I just I love this story. I mean, yeah, sure, it's Hamlet, but I never fucking read Hamlet. Okay, I've seen the Lion King like 100 times though, you know, and I really enjoy like. First of all, let's get the filmmaking stuff out of the way. Can we talk about the music real quick? I'm not just talking about Elton John's musical numbers. Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer's score for this is so like epic and so sweeping, and just like everything from like well yeah, the opening song to that song, that very short clip where you see Simba running back to Pride Rock, and you have that chorus like just going wild. All of it is just so great. And like the songs are so goddamn catchy. I just can't wait to be king, be prepared. Those are just, I still like sing those to myself sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, like I love the fuck out of those songs. And when I was a kid, oh man, I was such a Simba dude. I was such a like, you know, like my grandma used to call me licenciado, which is a lawyer, but also it's just like a way of saying like leader. You know, that was like her nickname for me. And I do remember like when I was a kid, like I was like the leader of the fucking like kids in the block, you know, like I remember one time, I was like 5 or 6 years old, and my dad, you know, we had a bunch of family and a bunch of friends over, and like I think I watched The Simpsons or something, and I didn't even know what this word meant, but I thought it sounded so cool. I, I got like my cousins and a couple of the neighborhood friends to like stand behind me while we marched around the neighborhood, going, "We surrender, we surrender." Oh my god, yeah. So yeah, no, like I always saw myself like in Simba, you know. So the fact that this movie like very directly deals with death and all that shit, you know. Let me see. Lion King was a really good movie. I'm Gen X. I mean, yeah, honestly, I mean, Mufasa's like death scene is one of the most like heart-wrenching and traumatic things, especially for a kid, like especially when it's like Simba is like trying to lift him but his body's limp, and like god. And Jonathan Taylor Thomas just perfect as young Simba, and all that shit. I've studied and taught, but I've never seen The Lion. Are you talking about you studied Hamlet or The Lion King? That's cool. Either way. But yeah, like The Lion King, man, like just that story of, again, like you're gonna see a theme here. I like stories of like earning your like your humanity and your place in things. And like I need to. I Here's the thing. On escaping a spinning room, the secondary actor Mikey, like he was a actor, like he was more of a theater guy. I think that's the only movie that he's ever been in was with mine. But yeah, like we we, as you do with actors, you start to form like a really close bond and all that. And I actually saw his Hamlet. But like the thing is, I don't know. Like if you're not, I feel like if you go see Shakespeare and you're not familiar with like all the dialogue up front, like a lot of it just like sounds foreign to you. So while I got what was going on, like I feel like I just need to read Hamlet and then we'll go watch Hamlet to get full experience on that, you know. But let me see. Darth Vader, he had me at Vader. It's Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, that's another yeah, another traumatic dad death, right? But with the Lion King again, it's just like it's kind of what I love. It's about someone who starts off like really under like appreciating everything, and then what I love is that like Simba is a coward. Simba ran away from his responsibilities, and that's when he becomes his most lovable. That's when he's like his happiest and all that shit. And it is only through dealing with his past that he's able to fully come into his own and earn his place. And oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Yeah. Good shit, dude. The resurrection of Jake the Snake, just simply motivation. I don't think I've ever heard of that one. Um, let me see. Shakespeare works best performed or read out loud. Reading it can be difficult. Yeah. Maybe that could be the trick for sure. I mean, the thing is, Mikey loves Shakespeare, man. He was always telling me that I need to get into Shakespeare. I actually like. I saw him. I saw him do two plays. He did the lead in The Shape of Things, the Neil LaBute play. Like, oh man, he was a great, fantastic performance. But yeah. Let me see. Please tell me how. Mikey. Sorry, man. I sorry to break it to you, man. It's not in my top 10. But the Lion King again, it's just pure animated cinematic gold. It's a great like, here's what film is to show to a little kid, and it's just another movie that every time I see it, just takes me back to being that 5-year-old kid in the theater. Between my mom, my dad, my little brothers sitting next to me, and like they were my little brothers. Like I was 5. Like my middle brother was 3. My youngest brother was like 1 or 2 when it came out. So the fact that like I knew that nobody else got what was going on deeper in this movie but me, my mom, and my dad, and considering what the movie's about, like that was a really powerful experience for me. And it's one that I'll never forget. And it's one of the reasons why I love the shit out of that movie. My throat's getting a little dry, so give me a second and I'll be right back with my number 8 movie. To fitness for a minute. Is that a documentary? Is that a documentary about Jake the Snake? I gotta tell me. I mean, I gotta find out. Um, top 10 soundtracks list. I should do that list sometime because one of the things you're gonna see also coming up a lot is that I love the soundtracks to a lot of these movies. And the next one is absolutely no exception, and that is 2015's Mad Max Fury Road. There you got the boot, you got the doof. You got the doof, man. I Yeah, no, I'm totally down. Totally. But yeah, so God, Mad Max Fury Road. What is there to be said about Mad Max Fury Road? that hasn't been said before. I mean, again, it's touching upon what you guys can probably tell already is one of my pet themes, and that is a guy who is running away from his humanity, running away from his past, from his troubles, and then coming to terms with it and growing from it. And the best thing is that there's so many ways to do that with dialogue and with like all this crazy shit. But this movie says fuck that. Cars go boom real good. Also, an incredibly deep and personal story that is just incredibly universal. And like whenever I watch it, it just reminds me uh set it That's sick. That's sick, man. But goddamn, Mad Max Fury Road. That's just a movie that I've seen so many times since it came out. And funny enough, right? The first time I saw Mad Max Fury Road was at a bar. Funny enough. It was a bar. It was like a surprisingly slow night. I think it was like I don't think it was like a Friday night. It was really slow. And this is while the movie was still playing down the road at the movie theater. And the bartender had a bootleg copy. And he just started playing Mad Max Fury Road, and it was mute, right? Or at least I couldn't hear it over the music. So I'm watching this movie on mute. I'm there to like get drunk and have fun and all that, but I literally just sit there and watch the movie from like I think maybe like from the first like real excuse me chase after Furiosa leaves Morton Joe's compound. Like I started watching it like there, like in that very first like big car chase, all the way till the end, and like a great direction. Fantastic, a great sign of incredible direction is being able to turn the sound off and still get totally swept up and know what's going on. And that's how I experienced this movie for the first time. So not too long after that, when it came out on Blu-ray, like yeah, I bought it and I will watch it a shit ton and just over. I mean, he will tell you like even since we've been together, I think I've seen it like 6 times. And it's just a movie that again like is everything that is great about cinema, and it's just brought to life with so much imagination and so much care to detail that you just completely lose yourself to the world and to everything that's going on. Like this is a movie that just has so many uniquely creative like editing techniques and a lot of different shots. Like I love in the sequence when they're in the dust storm, like you can tell there's lightning flashing because the picture cuts to black and white, and usually like they overblow that, but instead they take the color away, which it's just funny because as a welder, like when the weld starts, like my thing goes black, so it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. And that little light touch, along of course with the sound design and the editing, it's just like it makes you feel lightning like in a way that never before, and especially like the most movies don't, and especially considering everything else that's going on. God damn, it just sweeps you off your feet, man. It just sweeps you off your feet. And what I love about it is that it's just unapologetically, it's about fucking cars going boom, motherfucker. That's what it's about. We're gonna have some fucking heavy metal riffs, and we're gonna do all this shit, and you're not gonna be able to take your fucking eyes off the screen of Mad Max Fury Road at all. Also, we're gonna tell you this incredible story. We're gonna tell you this beautiful film about like humanity, about what makes us human, about what makes life worth living. It's about like patriarchy and the real shittiness of it. It's a movie about capitalism. It's a movie that's about like it's about so many fucking things, but most importantly, all of it is expressed through cars going boom boom real good. And I love that shit. I love cars going boom boom real good. Like I fell in love with cinema for two different things. Like first of all, we're gonna get into the first one a little later because that's a foundational thing. But also just like sitting with my dad like on the weekends when my mom was working, and watching fucking action movies. All like I think I saw Terminator Part 2 when I was 4, and I loved it so much that was like our movie back in the day. So every time like I see this kind of stuff, it takes me back to that, and it's so like foundational to me. And there's just something so inherently cinematic about the way that cars blow up in movies. They don't blow up like that in real life, but there's something so visceral, so instantly like I like just eye popping. And this movie is probably the very best at making cars explode, you know, amongst many other things. Uh, as an Australian, I've always enjoyed the original Mad Max more than the sequels. I gotta watch. You know, I hate to say it, man, but I actually haven't seen the other Mad Maxes. I need to go back and see those ones for sure. Of the other movies, I thought George couldn't put lightning in the bottle for a fourth time. He did. You know, if you read the book about the making of Fury Road, it was not putting lightning in a bottle. It was like it was creating lightning and then finding a way to stuff it into a bottle with it before anybody fucking dies for months on end, the middle of the desert. If you love Mad Max Fury Road, I really cannot recommend Blood, Sweat, and Chrome. It's a fantastic book about the making of it. And once you read all the little stories, all the little details, like just makes the movie so much more fun to watch. Like one of the stories that I love the most, right, is that all the war boys, they're all stunt actors, right? So none of them were proper actors. So George Miller hired an acting coach to coach them for 6 weeks. And in those 6 weeks, like because they weren't professional actors, he just encouraged them to immerse themselves into the world. And in that, this was born. They came up with that. They came up with that during that because what happened was they got so caught up in preparing for this and immersing themselves in this that not only did they come up with this, the very first time that the guy who played Immortan Joe showed up in front of them in full costume, they said that like they were afraid the building was going to collapse because the commotion was so intense. Like and you see it on screen, like you see that sort of manic devotion that you see in Trump supporters. It's fucking insane, you know. Let's see, yeah, absolutely genius. I could watch many movies again. His I can. And I'm a sucker for New Zealand, Tasmania. Yeah, you know, I hate to say it, man, but Australia, it's like a big. I just don't know a lot of Australian movies. Unfortunately, that's on me. That's a big blind spot, you know. I'm an 80s kid, so my dad had the Beta Ninja movie collection, Canon Films at its best. Oh, Three Ninja Kids, dude. Speaking of ninja movies, Three Ninja Kids. That was like a movie that my dad rented for us. We watched all the goddamn time. I heard, no, 100%. Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. That's cool. The Venom, just pure entertaining to me, and Tom Hardy was amazing. You know, I haven't seen Venom, but I hear Tom Hardy is just like incredible in it. And yeah, Tom Hardy, of course, is great in this, even though like he almost wasn't. Like the other fun part of the book is reading about Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron just hating the fuck out of each other. Again, I cannot recommend it. And holy crap, Miller is beyond dedicated. Like once the conception of Mad Max Fury Road, like how dedicated he was to seeing that to fruition, it's inspiring. It's an absolutely inspiring story to read. You know, Ninja 3, the domination. It's out. You gotta remind me of that. Remind me of that. I'll be sure to check it out one of these days. But you know, that's it. That's it for Mad Max Fury Road. I really, again, all these movies I love, but of all the ones, like, if you haven't seen Mad Max Fury Road somehow, for fuck's sakes, go see it. So far we've had like the Green Knight. We've had 3 movies that are essentially kind of like optimistic portrayals, you know, about the human spirit and all that. But we're gonna bring things down a little bit. We're gonna bring things down considerably for this next one, because by the way, I'm shouting this out to, I believe it was Mikey J. I could be wrong. Who recommended this one to me? Troy McClure. Troy, homie, does this look familiar to you? Does that look familiar to you? I am talking about 1976's Sidney Lumet's fucking masterpiece, Network. This is an incredibly cynical movie. This is an absolutely cynical, hateful, spiteful movie, but it's like a righteous hatred. It's a righteous anger. And it's a movie that is about, you know, the sort of the Ouroboros snake of society and media, and how both things feed each other into an increasingly worse and worse fucking place, you know. This movie, what I love about it, you know, this is gonna sound funny coming from like a super progressive leftist for me, but I really love how this movie is so fucking cynical, that it even like manages to take feminism and like really view it in the most cynical way without like shitting on feminism. That's the best thing about it. It's not shitting on feminism as a concept, you know, but like in the 70s, the big issue for feminism was women in the workplace, right? And Faye Dunaway's character in this movie as a female executive, a woman in the workplace who was on her way to the top and all that. She's one of my favorite characters. She's just watching her like doing what she has to do to succeed in this arena, right? Which is an arena that is ruled by shitty men. And she has to be so much. It's like like that saying that a lot of women, a lot of people of color say is that you have to work twice as hard to get half as much, and she does that, and she's 2 times worse of a capitalist, 2 times worse of just like a cynic and all that shit. And the worst part is that she's absolutely right about everything. That's the craziest part. It's such a cynical movie, not in that sort of bullshit like Holden Caulfield sort of way. No, this is like dissecting the human condition and how, as human beings, we are not designed for the television. We're not designed for the fucking television, let alone the internet. We got monkey brains, like we're pretty advanced, but fundamentally our brain is like very much still animalistic, and we are nothing to we that is just like we cannot compete. We cannot compete with the powers of capitalism and all that shit, and especially with how the media works. This is a movie that is so far ahead of its time because one of the big subplots here is that the news division gets bought up, but again, the news division becomes privatized, becomes part of the entertainment division, and we see, this movie was before the 24-hour news cycle and stuff like that, and this movie just really predicted more so that more so the effects of what happens when you just bombard people with all this shit, and when you have to make entertainment out of news, and sort of the ethical and moral boundaries and the lines that crosses and stuff like that. Like this movie really does a great job of really exploring that, and the best touch is that like the main the main character is Faye Dunaway, right? But God, I can't believe the Howard Beale, his character, like he's so electrifying. He's so fucking electrifying, but he's fucking unwell. He's dying, like he's sick mentally, physically, and all that. He's literally a dying madman. And he becomes this voice of reason, right? Becomes this to say I have dude, oh my god. You see, Network is just like goddamn, dude, just a monument of cinema, right? And God, where was I going with that? Yeah, Howard Beale, like that character, the fact that he is just depressed and suicidal and all that, and then he becomes like the center of like a revolutionary movement within the United States that spawns this hideous amalgamation of activism and capitalism and entertainment. Like it's just such a dark, like hateful fucking movie, and it just earns it. And it's you don't feel bad watching it because you can't deny the truth. You can't deny what this movie is telling you, and the worst part about it is that it lets nobody off the fucking hook, including you, the audience. Could have never imagined how dire the news media has become today. If Beale thought he couldn't take it, just yeah, no, exactly, 100%. Yeah, Howard Beale is just a harbinger. He's a harbinger for the downfall of civilization. And we in the 70s it was always there. Time is a flat circle. It's just like a cycle. So it's unfortunate that a movie like this is still so fucking relevant. But ultimately, like, humanity fucked up when we created capitalism, because the human condition, the human mind, the human heart, families, friendships, none of that is meant to work within a capitalistic system. And all of it's going to become bastardized the longer it goes on. And that's why I love this movie. It is just a brutal takedown of not just capitalism and capitalists, but us, the motherfuckers who enable it and make it fucking happen, and who just suck that shit up because we fucking love it. And it's goddamn. I watched it this weekend, and it was just one of the most I forgot how electrifying this movie is, and especially for someone like me who is is very very cynical and critical about so many things. It's just like a little bit like life affirming. Like, you get me, Sidney Lumet, you really do. Ironic place for it, but amazing storyline. But two homicide detectives trying to hunt a serial killer that has a team of seven deadly sins. Plus, oh yeah, Seven is a classic, man. Seven is an absolute fucking classic. I mean, that is a movie that just has a very clever conceit and all that. And just another movie again that sort of, well, maybe not so much like in the same key of, not in the same fucking ballpark of, Network, but I really do love that this movie is kind of showing the shallowness of the human condition as well. Seven specifically is what I'm talking about. And how easy it is to abandon. The another movie where like the bad guy is kind of right, unfortunately, in the end. And yeah, that's it for my number 7 movie, Network. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen Network, definitely check it out. And again, shout out to Troy McClure. Like, I hope I did you proud, man. Okay. Love the Beast by Bana. He drives a Ford Falcon, like the Mad Max car. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Again, yeah, that's cool. So let's go ahead and move on to my number 6 movie. And for this one, we're gonna go ahead and zoom kind of back in a little bit to a sort of younger time for me, and that is Donnie fucking Darko. So again, this is a movie that for a very long time I didn't want to watch because to me, it's so much a movie about adolescence. It's so much a movie about being a teenager, right? That I thought like it's like that movie should stay with my adolescence, you know. But when I was doing the Southland Tales video, like I bought the 4K of the Arrow 4K of Donnie Darko, and I watched it again this weekend because I do want to do more with Richard Kelly's universe. And man, this movie it's just timeless. It's just absolutely timeless. It's oh yeah, no, it is heavy. It's heavy because it is a very adolescent movie. And I mean that like in the I'm going to put myself here. Yeah, look, got the buddy ears. Sorry. But yeah, Donnie Darko just creeps me out for some reason. we all have those actors, I guess, right? Yeah, but Donnie Darko, man. Donnie Darko, I really love the way that it captures what being a teenager feels like, and what I really loved watching it this weekend, again for the first time since I was like maybe like 18, is that like I was afraid that it wasn't going to hold up, but as an adult, like I actually found so many new layers to it, so many different layers to this movie, and especially as someone. Throughout we were watching Donnie Darko, and Lindsay just kept turning like, "That's you. That's so you." That's exactly. She kept saying, "That's exactly how you were in high school." And I was like, "Yes." Why do you think I love this movie so much? But no, yeah, I really love that this movie it does such a great job of like how when you're a teenager, things that you eventually grow to like understand, like it's not a big deal. Like everything is just like the most important thing, right? Because it's your first time experiencing it, your first crush, your first party, like your a lot of shit. But the way that yeah, but God, where was it going with that? Yeah, but just it captures that feeling and it presents it so well that as an adult, like I just really like found myself just kind of like a little navel gazy, like God, I remember what that was like, or I remember what this is like. But what I loved this time around specifically was just how ambiguous it plays, how you can view the story. And when I was a kid, let's put it this way: when I was a kid, I was very literal. Like I wasn't as film literate as I am today. So I took it very literally as a movie about a kid who was trying to save the world, right? But now as an adult, I see it as a kid who thinks he needs to save the world. It's a kid who thinks he needs to save the world, right? And the way that the whole ending played to me, especially like the final moments of it, really just took on a whole different meaning when you realize that this is just a movie about a fucked up kid. Like Donnie Darko, he's just kind of fucked up, and not in any way that's like super unique or like super destructive. Like he comes from a loving family and all that. But that's the thing about adolescence. You can have the most loving and supportive family around you, and you can know that they love you to like to bits. But you're a teenager and you're in your feelings and you're feeling this shit for the first time. So you can't help but feel that alienation. And God, what else is there to say? I mean, of course, the music, right? Let's talk about the fucking music. There's another film where of course we have the famous Mad World, and it's funny how time flies, that part, the opening. There's just so many great like needle drops throughout this entire movie. But can we just take a minute to talk about this score? It's so unique, right? Like it's such a uniquely different, like not, it's like not orchestral, but you have like a chorus, you have a lot of like operatic singing throughout it because adolescence is operatic. Like it's also dramatic. Being a teenager is very, very high stakes. It's high stakes feelings over small stakes problems, you know? So I really like the way that the operatic nature of the score really just highlights that. But also like it can be that, but then you have Gretchen's theme, that the little piano piece. There's just like a lot of moments that are just very nice and pleasant and beautiful. But then you have like these big, dreadful, like doomy chorus, chorus sounds and all that. And it's fucking just ear candy, you know? Yeah, and do I prefer the original or extended cut? I actually enjoyed the earlier cut because things weren't specifically spelled out. It was, yes, no, that's exactly it. I mean, you said it for me right there, dude. I actually actively hate the director's cut. You're gonna see this when I do the Donnie Darko and Southland Tales thing video. That's probably gonna come out later this year. But like Donnie Darko and Southland Tales are such like mirror images of each other, which is ironic considering the image I chose here. But like they're like mirror images of each other. Where like Donnie Darko, the director's cut was a fucking mess, and it was way too like exposition heavy, and exactly like it didn't want to let you interpret anything, you know. And that's like Southland Tales theatrical cut. It's like super heavy on exposition to the point that it's obnoxious, and you feel like you never really get to settle into a groove. And then Donnie Darko's theatrical cut is this beautifully like realized film with like really great pacing, that just kind of flows and allows you to go with it. And that's also Southland Tales, the director's cut, you know? Again, like you guys can watch my Southland Tales video for how I feel about that. But, it's a shame that Richard Kelly just hasn't done more stuff, because the promise with those two, and I like The Box. I think The Box is a fine movie. It's not as good as his other ones, but like it's a shame that he hasn't made more stuff. And I heard he's working on stuff, so I hope we get to see some of that soon. Because Donnie Darko, man, it's just magic. It's just pure, just the pure encapsulation of adolescence, man. Just crystallized on 35 millimeter film. And luckily, I think the whole world is a better place, especially like kids like me, like outcast, awkward, like troubled teenagers and stuff like that. Like this movie is forever gonna be all those kids is like, comfort blanket, because that's what it was for me, like I grew up being one of the very few goth kids in a super racist, super shitty little cowboy kicker town out here in California. It ain't all the beach, y'all. you know so I mean, as I got older, I got more people became goth and emo, but especially the early years there in my adolescence, like this was the only movie that I felt like represented me and that I took comfort in and stuff like that. So it was it's always been an important film, and I'm super glad and super stoked to tell you guys, god damn, this movie holds up. It really, really does. I agree, that is my number 6, just a classic film and the debut of Seth. Yeah. Yeah, don't fucking move, don't fucking move. That's always been like a little earworm. The way he says that has always cracked me up. So yeah, that's Donnie Darko. Again, a fucking classic movie, but it's a movie that I'm pretty sure we all know about. So I want to go ahead and talk about a movie that I feel a lot of people forgot existed, even though it got nominated for Best Picture in 2013. And that is Ben Zeitlin's Beasts of the Southern Wild. Okay, just kind of carrying on the theme. I fucking love the music to this movie so goddamn much. Like this is probably I mean, it's up there. The Green Hornet. Holy shit! Really? That's just funny because we'll get there. We'll get there. It's funny you mentioned that though. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, Beast of the Southern Wild. I mean, the music. Just first, I really just want to talk about just how incredible the score is here. And I don't want to get copyright strike, so I'm not going to play it. But if you just want to, you don't even need to see the movie. Like the song, the music is so fucking like whimsical, and it kind of reminds me of Beirut and Arcade Fire a little bit. It kind of has a Baroque quality. But it's like what if John Williams was in Arcade Fire? Let's put it that way. That's the music. you know? I was gonna say that's an interesting choice. But well, we'll get there in a minute. But yeah, I mean that's just the music, right? And I can go on forever about the music. Just watch the goddamn trailer, just to get a little taste of how fantastic that is. Just watch the trailer for this movie, and it's my number 5 movie of all time because this is a movie um that's about a little girl who is facing the end of the world, whether it be literal or metaphorical. If she feels like the world is ending, and she's just a kid, she's just a little 5-year-old kid, and it's essentially a fairy tale. It's to the point where like the more that I've seen it, the more that I pick up like on these little details, like the place where this story takes place, the main location takes place on somebody's like property, and that property is belongs to the main characters of these movies. So the size of the property would imply that these people are wealthy, but as we see them, they live in complete poverty. And this movie takes place in just outside of New Orleans in post Katrina, um, in a place that got flooded, obviously, and got completely destroyed. And it's about just sort of this like small band of outcasts who created this little town for themselves that lives and operates and kind of looks like this. As you can see, they live on the water. They've embraced the fact that they're flooded and all that. That's first of all, that's the thing. When I say it's a fairy tale, I mean it's a fairy tale. Like this is the kingdom. This is Hush Puppy. This is Hush Puppy's kingdom. And when we're watching this movie, you're essentially following this main character who essentially functions like a princess, who we are told is going to be the queen of this land, or and all that shit, and she has to live up to her father, and her father is a very very haranguey imperfect person, and probably one of the most violently imperfect characters ever put to screen. And yet like you sympathize for this guy, like once you know the whole story, of course. Early on, he's horrifying. Like early on, he's like throwing crap at his kid while everything around them is literally on fire. It's a wild movie. It is a wild movie, by the way. It's one of those things where it's like, of course it had to be an independent movie. If you tried to do this on the studio, you wouldn't be able to. It would be illegal. But yeah, I guess to really get into why this movie is like one of my top 5, is not only does this movie just really feel like it transports you somewhere. That feeling throughout the film is challenged in a very meaningful and interesting way. This is a story about a girl who expects the world to end, who thinks the world is going to end in front of her, and we explore her dealing with that, the reality of that, and what it means for her world, specifically the world of a little kid, of a tiny little kid. Like, what does the end of the world mean to them? What does it represent? Is it the literal world, or is it just the world around them? And also, how do you cope? The final shot of this movie is one of the most bittersweet, like absolutely devastating, while also like pumping your fist up in the air. Like it leaves you with so much uncertainty, but without a sense of dread, despite the fact that it has a very sad ending. And considering the fairy tale nature of it, what the movie kind of says about life, the greater feeling of life, and honestly, Especially watching it in the modern context when the world is physically dying. Global warming is killing so many things. And when you think about the enormity of that, what are we if not 5-year-old kids in comparison, in relation to that? That sense of helplessness, of not being able to do, like, I can't fucking keep the ice caps from melting. I can't do that, and neither can her. But the thing is, a little kid expects you to. You know, so when you're an adult and you don't have anyone to expect that from, you just kind of have to eat it a little bit. And how this movie explores that through the lens of a little kid is, I mean, first of all, I don't want to sell this movie like it's a bummer, because it's not. Like, this is one of the most uplifting films that I've ever seen. Like, the first like 10 minutes of this movie is just like perfect cinema. Like just like the most astounding, like, opening few minutes. And you guys are gonna see I'm a sucker for a fantastic first act. But this movie's like opening sequence is just electrifying. It just instantly captures the imagination, and so much of it is the music, right? But it's also like the imagery and the fact that, as you guys can probably tell, maybe some of your serious movie nerds, that ain't no 35 millimeter film, Graham. This movie was shot at 16. And it kind of gives this movie this eternal quality, right? This movie would not have worked if you would have shot it on digital, because digital looks too modern. The fact that this movie was shot on 16 gives it this sort of timeless quality, and it makes it feel like this is an ancient fairy tale. It makes it feel like this is a fairy tale that we've all been telling each other in some way or another. And frankly, we've been telling this story in some way or another since the beginning of time. It's just yeah, it was yeah, it does feel like a fever dream. It totally does. But yeah, and God, what was I saying before that? Jeez, I kind of totally lost my train of thought there. I'm sorry, you guys, but no, okay, yeah. The opening 10 minutes, like, so much of it is the music. A lot of it is the editing, but also just some of the imagery, just some of the shit this movie puts to screen. Just really needs to be seen to be believed. And as an independent filmmaker, as like a low budget, self-funding ass filmmaker, it is inspiring. It is inspiring what these people were able to do with such limited resources. It really is something everyone else is. Yes, perfect, Mikey. Yes, thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, and that's what this movie feels like, man. This movie definitely feels like you're unearthing something ancient, because the truths that this movie explores, and again, and it's truth that is so the enormity, the complexity of these truths that the movie explores are made very palatable, because you are seeing it through the lens of a child. But you're seeing it through the lens of a child, and this movie makes you feel like a helpless little kid, But just like a helpless little kid can rely on his mom and dad to hug him and make him feel all better, this movie asks us to find that within ourselves, you know. Um, yeah, and that's what I love about this one. This is I love movies. If you guys can't tell, that are kind of optimistic, but that really put you through the ringer. And this movie is totally that. This movie leaves you with a beautifully ambiguous state, but in a beautifully ambiguous place. But like, and it's not the happiest. It's very bittersweet, but it earns its sweetness, and you really feel like you yourself deserve some of that happiness, because it does ask a lot of you emotionally when you watch it. And I don't mean that in some like Lars von Trier, like horrible things are happening in very direct and blunt ways. No, this isn't that movie. This is a fairy tale. This is an absolute fairy tale, and it's a modern one. And it's a shame. It's a shame this is a forgotten movie. This movie, uh, Lindsay. Yeah. But what was I saying? God, yeah, this movie's just magic, man. It's just absolute magic. And like, God, I really cannot. It's like I said. Okay, that's what I was trying to say. It's a bummer that so many people forgot this movie existed. It was nominated for Best Picture, the 2013 Oscars. I saw this movie in theaters opening weekend. And I remember it was for my birthday. I saw it for my birthday, and so I was there, and it was like, okay, cool. So like, it's an indie movie, and it looks like a cool one. It has cool music, but I remember when the movie was over, I was not expecting just how much that ending was gonna hit me. I was not expecting how like just it just swept over me, dude. Like just completely washed over me in the way that only an incredibly fantastically well made movie can. So if you haven't seen Beast of the Southern Wild, if you see none of the movies if you don't watch anything, or you've already seen all the movies that I mentioned, and you haven't seen Beast of the Southern Wild, go watch it. Seriously, it's amazing. You'll thank me later. My sister's a professor in New Orleans. I took a tour in those swamps. I got to see this. It's heartbreaking, the damage. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like it is heartbreaking, the damage. But one of the central metaphors of this movie is that they take that damage and build something with it. But I'll let you guys explore that with the movie. So, Beast of the fucking Southern Wild. God, man, like just talking about it makes me want to go pop it back on. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. That might actually happen a lot for these next ones. So from going to super, Beast of the Southern Wild is an incredibly low budget independent movie that manages to do a lot with very little. But for this next one, we're kind of going in the opposite direction here. Talking about Jurassic Park, baby. Oh my God. Jesus hell. This is another one that just like ever since I was a kid, man. Ever since I was a kid, this movie just always got to me. And I remember being a kid. I remember being a kid watching all the making of documentaries on Discovery Channel and TLC. And like I always saw like Steven Spielberg, director. I didn't know what the fuck it meant, but like I just kind of saw that he was the guy who talked the most, right? Who did all that. So, I knew I knew the name Steven Spielberg. I knew the title of a director, but I remember I was born in 1988, so just before the 90s. Um, Still Dead, Nedry Dirty. I don't know, man. Nedry kind of sucks. But yeah, Jurassic Park. I saw this, and again, I remember this so vividly because I saw it the Sunday that it came out. My dad had promised me that we were going to go see it opening weekend, but he got super drunk the night before. So the next day, I'm like, wake up. I jump straight to his bed, and I jump until he gets up, and he's super hungover. He's like, oh, okay, fuck, we'll go see the movie. He gets up, goes to the bathroom, throws up, takes a shower. Within 20 minutes, we're out, and then like, God, I just remember the magic of it, man. Just the absolute magic of it. It really, it's a movie that instantly communicates to a little kid like the power and the magic of cinema. Because yeah, I mean, who doesn't watch that movie and for like 2 hours believe that there are dinosaurs on this earth, you know? And when you're a little kid like me, who I mean, all little kids love dinosaurs, right? But you know, when you love dinosaurs, and then not only are you given this super like great experience of seeing them come to life, as you get older you kind of come to appreciate the thematic work, the character work here. Jurassic Park, it's one of the things that I really dislike about a lot of cinema culture, especially when it comes to like, I guess you could say like outside of the sort of mainstream and shit like that. When it comes to that, there's a lot of disrespect and a lot of hatred towards action movies, big budget movies. And I mean, a lot of that is earned, right? But the thing is, you can't create a world like Jurassic Park without a shit ton of fucking money. Like that's it, and we could fucking pontificate and sit around and pick apart like, oh, true cinema, true that, whatnot. True cinema isn't like serious cinema, like it's like, as a musician, one of my biggest pet peeves among people is motherfuckers who are just like, oh, I only listen to Radiohead. It's like, dude, I mean, Radiohead rules, but like, if you only listen to like depressing ass fucking like music because that's like that's the only kind of music that Pitchfork tells you need to like check out, like you're missing out on like pop music and like world music. Like, fundamentally, a song is meant to get you to shake your ass. That's what music was made for, to get us to get up off of our seats and shake our asses together. That is the foundational, primal purpose and reason why music exists, right? And just like that, film is meant to like transform, right? It's meant to immerse you. It's meant to make you believe and lose yourself into into the world that is presenting for you, and to do this like this is peak cinema, not in the sense of quality, but this is like the maximalist of what all that shit can do, you know. um Good shit, Lucifer. Thank you very much. I told you guys it was gonna be a weird one. But yeah, like Jurassic Park is a movie that not only gives you this great journey, but it's also a great exploration of hubris, of greed, of science, a celebration of science. That's the thing. There's that meme going on that a lot of people think that Jurassic Park is a parable about the follies of science, but the science went like fantastically well. It's capitalism that fucked it up, you know. And that's, you know, at the core of this movie, the main bad guy is a capitalist who misunderstands and doesn't appreciate what he has, you know. So let's see. uh Goldblum and Dern weren't acting in that water droplet scene. She barely held it together. I didn't know that. That's crazy. No, but I mean, it's simple things like that. You know, that's sort of the great the great part of Jurassic Park is that yes, it gives you the big CGI dinosaurs and all these fantastical like fucking practical effects, but goddamn, one of the most memorable fucking things is that little drop, or not the droplet of water. I'm sorry, that is a good one too. But the water cup, you know, the rings in the water cup with the T-Rex stomping, like the fact that this movie is able to give you great characters, great adventure, great story, great spectacle in the large sense, and also just great suspense with simplicity, just kind of goes to show you that this is everything that's great about cinema, and especially everything great about high budget blockbuster filmmaking and all that. And you know, like it's a movie that also for me has subtle foreshadowing with the seatbelts on the helicopter. Oh yeah, at the beginning, huh? Because he has the two female. That's a good one. Let me see. Uh, I saw the. Oh, let me see. Let's go over here. Talking about Spielberg, Jaws is just a classic summertime movie, and I am thinking about watching the Meg. You know, I love Jaws and all that, but for me, Jaws was a movie that I watched like on TV in a weird way. Like I've seen Jaws many times, but I've never actually owned it because it was always on TV when I was a kid. You know, to the bullshit, dude. The Beasts of the Southern Wild soundtrack, like it's show it to your kids. They'll probably like it because it is really whimsical. You know. You saw the Jurassic Park for the first times in 2021. What was that like, Code? I'm kind of curious about that. Need to know what won you over about the Green Knight because I watched it with my girlfriend and came up really short. I'll do that later. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna split these up into segments, so you'll see them as they go on. Yeah. But yeah, like there's not much I can really add to the conversation when it comes to Jurassic Park. It's just a fucking instant classic. It was a classic the minute that it was made, you know? And even more impressive is that Spielberg directed this while he was making Schindler's List. Like he made one of his most crowd-pleasing, blockbuster, fun, rollicking adventures while also telling one of the most like harrowing portrayals of World War II, you know, and the Holocaust and all that. So the fact that he was able to put this out, and I think it's telling. Like I think he needed this. I think he needed to make a movie like this because he was, you know, because he was living in the world of the Holocaust, and you know he is Jewish, so I can't imagine that like that must have been super heavy for him. So I'm glad that he had Jurassic Park. I'm sure he needed that, and I'm glad that he made it. I'm glad that don't get me wrong. I would love to see James Cameron's take on Jurassic Park, but even he said that Spielberg was the right one because yeah, dinosaurs are for kids. You know, fundamentally, you're never gonna love dinosaurs more than when you're like 4 to 6 years old. You know, like my nieces and nephews, that's like my thing. Like I was such a Jurassic Park fan that like when they were like little, like I would just show them like little scenes here or there, and then my niece Scarlett, like I don't know if it's still her favorite movie, but we used to watch the Battle at Big Rock together, the little short film on YouTube, and she loved it so much because like she was like the girl at the end, like she kills or she shoots the baryonyx in the eye with a little toy god, what, bolt gun or little arrow or whatever. And my little niece Scarlett goes like, Uncle Ed, I'm like her because I'm brave. And I'm like, that's, you're right, Scarlett, you are very brave. And it just kind of takes me back to being a kid and thinking Ian Malcolm was like the coolest fucking dude. This is what I meant earlier, where my entire life I think I've like built my personality around two fictional characters. One of those being Donnie Darko, and the other one being Ian Malcolm. I wear a lot of black, not right now because I just wanted to switch things up a little bit. But I like to wear a lot of black. I like to be a little sardonic, and I like smart shit. I just don't like to make it sound like smart shit. And yeah, like Ian Malcolm is one of the greatest characters. I mean, this whole movie is full of fantastic characters, but for someone who was like me, 4 or 5 years old, super impressionable, like having Ian Malcolm be like, hey, you can be smart and fucking badass. I'm like, yeah, I want to be smart and badass, and here we are. It was pretty good. I like the sequels too, man. I mean, Dominion is stay tuned for Dominion because I am making a top 10 worst movies I've ever seen like in 2 weeks. So that's gonna be the next one. But yeah, I love the sequels. I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but I did put the Lost World Jurassic Park in my honorable mentions before I got into my top 10. Saw Jurassic Park in a really cool old style theater in the middle of town, like 100 seats or something. It's really great to watch it in an intimate setting like that. Yeah, definitely. I saw it in the theater, but the Lost World Jurassic Park, we saw that at a drive-in, you know it, Lindsay. I wasn't the biggest fan of Jurassic World and its sequel because the characters weren't as interesting, but I did like Dominion because I brought the old, I if I ever make I'm gonna make movies I love that everybody else hates list someday, and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is definitely gonna be on there because look, I'm never gonna say that Fallen Kingdom is well written because it's not. It's one of the worst fucking scripts that's ever been produced. But goddamn, J.A. Bayona just directs the fuck out of that shitty script. That guy manages to like up there with like Spielberg. Some of the best fucking set pieces, action sequences in the entire series are in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And again, I will not disagree with anyone who says that script sucks because it totally does. But again, a bad script, a script is not a movie. A movie is not a script. A movie is a movie. A script can fail and everything else can go right. And that's Fallen Kingdom. Bad script, fucking executed way better than it deserved to be, in my opinion. For the longest time, I assumed Jeff Goldblum was the main star of Jurassic Park because I always heard people talk about him. So I was surprised when Samuel was the main guy. That's the thing. That's the thing about Ian Malcolm is that he's such a great character that even though he's not the main character of Jurassic Park, that's the one everybody loves. I've always wanted to be like Ian Malcolm for Halloween. Maybe I'll do it this year. I even like Jurassic Park 3. It might be biased because William H. Macy's one of my favorite actors. Oh, well, stay tuned. But let me see. Macy's one of my favorite actors. Yeah, I like Jurassic Park 3 because it's a B movie. And it's a B movie in the Jurassic Park world that's over in 90 minutes. It's not a movie that should be taken seriously. That's a movie that I like to watch when I'm really drunk and high, don't get that. Dude, that's the thing. I have a little bit of that. I have a little bit of that to some extent. But Dominion, like, it's just locusts, Locusts. Here are my top 10 I like that, man. That's a good one. Felt like No Way Home, the Jurassic Park franchise, because it was a crossover between the two casts. There's a video essay I'm gonna make one day about how like the Jurassic World trilogy and Disney Star Wars trilogy, they are literal parallels. Your first movie is kind of like a nostalgic throwback. Your second movie is directed by an art house. If you guys saw my Dark Middle chapters, you see me go into this a little bit, but Jurassic World Dominion surprised me because it's so much like Rise of Skywalker. And when I make my top 10 worst movies of all time, Dominion's going to be on there, and so is Rise of Skywalker. Spoilers, for very similar reasons. But I'll get there when I get there. I like the lore too. I've read the books. I have the big fat like Barnes and Noble hard shell with the nice red bookmark and all that. I haven't read The Lost World since I was a kid, but I've read Jurassic Park a few times, and that's a great one. But yeah, that's it for Jurassic Park. We're getting here to the top three now. Jurassic Park is a fun little popcorn movie and all that, but we're gonna start getting to some heavy stuff. Not too heavy. We're not Lars von Trier, Michael Haneke is not on this list, but if you know this one, you'll know what I mean. That's right, you guys. We're talking about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Oh God. I'll be real with you guys. When I was a teenager, when this movie first came out, I used to watch it a lot, right? Because I was a teenager, and I felt at the time like this movie is like this is what adult love must be like. This is what adult relationships must be like. This is what it must feel like. This is what it must look like, and all that. And it is, and it is. It 100% is. The thing is, it's easy to aspire to that when you're a teenager, but when you're an actual adult and you're going through these relationships and these feelings and all that, it's not a comforting movie by any means, or at least it wasn't in my head. But so for like God, 15 years I didn't watch this movie. I haven't watched this movie since I was like Donnie Darko. I haven't seen this movie since I was like maybe 18. I think maybe like last time I saw it was like maybe 20. That was maybe the last time I saw it, but it was a long time since I saw it, and I almost didn't watch it because I didn't need to. This movie is so vividly like I could close my eyes and see that movie from beginning to end, you know. But I watched it again yesterday. God damn, this movie is just it never loses its power. It never loses what makes it great. This is the most complete, honest, and just pure expression of love probably in any art form. The beauty of cinema, the power of it is that it can fully encapsulate these complex ideas I mean, just look at The Matrix, right? That's a movie that's dense with philosophy, but it's just an action movie. Same thing with Mad Max Fury Road, you know and Eternal Sunshine is just it's that right. This movie is love incarnate as a film. It's exploring all of it. It's exploring love from every single angle with this brilliant conceit, right? Because with love comes pain, comes heartache, and comes risk, and comes with vulnerability, and that shit's fucking scary, right? It's fucking scary to trust someone and be like, oh yeah, here's my heart, like here's my heart. You know what I mean? Like, please don't hurt it. But like, what this movie does is that it reconciles with that fear, with that pain, with heartache, and most importantly, it contrasts it directly with love, like, and not just like in like the most boring way. Like, you see a couple, like the main couple is already like broken up. Their best friends are completely dysfunctional and probably should break up. You have unrequited love. You have like a dude who like finds out his girl is like in love with someone else. It explores all these things, and it wraps it all up around this brilliant central conceit where it's like, what if you could have love without the pain? But what's love without pain? What's a relationship without the risk? What is giving yourself over to someone without giving yourself over to someone, and just trusting that person is that you're putting your whole self in the right hands. And watching it yesterday, what really kind of like, I mean, first of all, this movie just like, oh God, I was not ready for to be impacted so much by this, the real like powerful moments. And like there's like three incredibly powerful moments in this movie that when I was watching it yesterday just hit me in a way that it never had before, because I only watched this when I was a teenager, when like all that shit was like theoretical and in the future. And I'm in a very awesome relationship right now, a very steady one, a very stable one. So now that I'm here, I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking about everything that came before it and how it got to this point. and how much of my life I spent like trying not to think about that, trying not to deal with the outcome of all those things that led up to now. And then this movie just doesn't allow you to escape that, because the way this movie explores these themes, right? Like the brilliant touch that you start the procedure off with your most recent memories where everything sucks, and then slowly you move further back in time when until you're like in the honeymoon phase, and it's so like intense and so like raw and all that shit. That's such a brilliant move, because it's only like, you know, in retrospect that we really come to appreciate that, because this movie, what's great is that it's not a simple, happy, clean love story. Like, I'm not gonna ruin the ending here, but if you know the ending of this movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's not, it doesn't do anything different. This is a movie that, it tells you love conquers all. It tells you the same thing every other fucking movie has ever said about love. Love will conquer all. But this is the only movie that makes you feel it, because it's not a clean, happy ending. It's not a clean, happy story. It's not a simple love. Love is not simple. Romance is not simple. So this movie does not portray it as anything other than it is. It's complicated. It's intense. A lot of the times you're wondering what you're even doing there. But the thing is, you love the person you love because they are that person, and nothing could take that away except that person. That's the real true fucking power of this, is like I said, love conquers all. Yeah, whatever. But like, this movie is like, no, motherfucker, love conquers all. Okay, whether you fucking like it or not. But man, honestly, this movie, I'm so glad that I rewatched it. I'm so glad that like it's still just it's still packed a punch, but it was such a different punch than what I felt my entire life before this. And frankly, much like Donnie Darko, it's the world is a better place because this movie exists. Because yeah, there have been revisionist romantic comedies before and after. Love conquers. Hey, when I say love conquers all, I mean all, including Good Judgment, right? Because a big part of this movie is well, I mean, to get into that, I'd have to really spoil it, and I don't want to do that here, because that's not what top 10 lists are for. Maybe when I do maybe when I clip this out, I'll add like a spoiler section at the end where I get really in depth. But like, yeah, this movie's fucking magic, man. This movie, it's cinema. It's fucking cinema. I mean, all these movies are, right? That's what I love about all these movies. They're all just so like cinema executing at its peak levels. But you know, very rarely does a movie like most of the time when we think about like the greatest movies of all time, they're so loaded with these heavy themes and with such seriousness and all that. And don't get me wrong, Eternal Sunshine is that. I mean, it's also funny. It's got some really funny moments in it. Um, but it's awesome when cinema is able to explore something positive and kind of cheesy and kind of corny, but do so in a way that feels honest and undeniable. And that's what this movie is. Like, I don't think anybody could ever watch this movie and not see something of themselves in it, because like I said, it's all encompassing. This is love all encompassing, and love conquers all. All right, guys, we're getting here to the last two. So we're gonna to the longest movies on this list. Funny enough, the two longest movies are almost exactly the same length. But let's let's start with well, let's actually read some of the comments here. Your number 3 is Howl's Moving Castle. Is gorgeous animated movie to watch. This movie always made me, dude. I tell you, I gotta watch more Ghibli. I really do, man, because I love all the Ghibli that I've seen. I have 3 Studio Ghibli films in my top 10 when Marnie was there and Tello. See, that's the thing. Like, it's crazy. Like, as someone who was not, oh, dude, Code, you got to see it, man. You got to see it. But yeah, it's so weird, like how many Ghibli movies there are out there, because I only know the big ones that everyone knows. But yeah, let's move on to my number 2, which is just goddamn. I mean, this is gonna look a little nondescript here, but I think if you know it, right? Does that look familiar to anyone? Does that look? Does this look like? No, it's a little nondescript, right? Well, this is not a movie that's known for its fantastical use of locations because this is a movie about characters, and I'm talking about Paul Thomas Anderson's 1999 epic Magnolia. Man, Magnolia. It's this is yeah. If you guys are liking this stream, make sure you hit like and subscribe, because yeah, it's different than what I usually do. It's gonna be more of this, split stuff up with the streams. But Jesus Christ, Magnolia, man. This is another movie that is just incredibly emotional. Like just probably one of the most emotional movies of all time. For those who don't know, Paul Thomas Anderson lost his father and spent like 3 days in the woods outside of Los Angeles doing a lot of cocaine, as he did throughout the entire making of this movie. If you think I'm lying, watch the making of and see how often he's like, yeah, yeah, we're here to we're here to make a good movie. Like he's like that throughout the entire fucking movie. And cocaine is a hell of a drug. Sometimes it has very horrible outcomes, but then sometimes you get Taxi Driver and fucking Magnolia, and goddamn, dude, Magnolia is just I've seen his Punch Drunk Love. Oh, that's another great one too. That's the movie he made. Magnolia took so much out of him, he had to make like a 90-minute comedy after that. Okay. So the thing about Magnolia is that, like, again, this is another movie, much like Beasts of the Southern Wild, and much like Beasts of the Southern Wild, where like the first like 20 minutes of this movie, it's just some of the best movie making you'll ever see. There's just no getting around it. Like the way that it instantly captures you, the way that it instantly grabs you, it just doesn't let go. A lot of people say this is the shortest 3-hour movie of all time because literally from the very first frame, it's just intensity, super fucking intense, nonstop, unrelenting in a lot of ways, very, very intense, very overwhelming. But that's because this movie is dealing with such great, big, huge ideas and emotions primarily. This is a movie about pain. This is a movie about pain, man. Like and much like Eternal Sunshine is this all-encompassing picture of pain and the effects of it on ourselves, on each other, how it manifests in different ways, and all that shit. Like it's such a complete exploration of pain, of hurt, of regret, of all these kind of like the darkest fucking aspects of humanity. And you would think a 3-hour movie about the darkest, saddest fucking feelings in the world would be a total bummer to sit through, but no, this movie is just like an insane, like awesome, just super creative camera movements, super like not always super flashy either, just like you're in like this unspectacular like television studio, and there's nothing really gorgeous about anything that's going on. But then you notice the movie hasn't fucking cut in like 20 seconds, and you're used to a movie cutting within here when this happens, but it doesn't, and it makes you so anxious and all that. And this inspired me, by the way. Like this inspired me so much with my last film, like that feeling of like this, you can't stop this, you can't control what's happening in front of you, you have no fucking control over this. And yeah, that's what this movie is. Like once you start it, like you're at its mercy. And the best thing about it is that this is Paul Thomas Anderson. If you're going to be in anybody's mercy, you're going to want it to be in Paul Thomas Anderson, because this guy knows how to make a fucking movie. This guy knows how to make drama super dramatic, and knows how to make spectacle spectacular, and it knows how to make comedy funny, and all this big sprawling, like the story of 10 different people that are like within like a 2-mile radius of each other in the middle of the San Fernando Valley on a particularly rainy day. Like the connections that this movie makes, and the way that it explores it is so fucking fascinating, because the opening 10 minutes really sets the tone. It's a guy telling all these stories that seemingly are about coincidences and luck and chance and weird little just like weird little things that happen, like weird little like tall tales and shit, all about like these things that seem like so fucking strange that you wouldn't believe it if it happened in you wouldn't believe it if it happened in the movie. But a lot of the stories that are told in the opening part of this movie are true, and that's what this movie is about. Is that like life is absurd? Life is absolutely fucking absurd, and you spend the entire 10 minutes, the opening 10 minutes of this movie with this character being like, yeah, but then this happened, and then why did this happen? Is there a reason? Is there something to get from all this? There has to be something bigger. And what the movie says, and what's so fucking beautiful about it, is that it says no, there is nothing bigger. All you could try to analyze your pain. You could try to make sense of it. You could try to live with it. You could try to hide it. You could try to do all these things, but the more you try to reason with it, the more you're gonna give yourself over to what hurt you to begin with. You know, the way this movie ends, it's one of the greatest punchlines. Let's just be real. This is one of the greatest like punchlines to any movie that I've ever seen. Like it's borderline a joke the way this movie ends. And considering what's going on when that happens, like the stories that are the secrets that are unveiled, like the fact that we go from that to the big thing. It's comedy. It's damn near comedy. You can't help but sort of laugh, cackle to yourself at the madness of it all. And that's sort of the point, that like this thing, these things happen. That's what this movie is about. Is that like, and it's so weird, right? Because again, this is a movie that Paul Thomas Anderson made when he himself was in immense pain. He was mourning the loss of his father. And what he comes to, what he makes out of that is just to be like, hey, this happens. And I know what that sounds like, right? Oh, like a 3-hour movie about how like about all the fucking horrible things in life, and then like the big, and then like it's all about how like these whatever, dude. I know what that sounds like. I know that sounds like the most boring fucking thing ever. But believe me, you can't help but to just hand yourself over to this movie. I challenge anyone to watch like the first 2 minutes of this, and unless you're very committed to not wanting to watch it, you know, you're really, really just like gonna love it. Like it's just gonna grab you and it's just not gonna let go. Um, and goddamn, man, like it just the sort of the themes that are touched upon here, and I'm not really getting too much into details here because it's a pastiche. It's an ensemble piece, it's a day in the life of 10 people who have no idea they're connected to each other. And the way that they are, I mean, that's sort of the fun of it, It's also sort of the fun of rewatching it. By the time, I mean, I've seen this movie maybe like a dozen times, and well, probably more actually. Like, this is a movie that, like I said, it's 3 hours long, but it doesn't feel it. And like, oh, geez, where was I going with that? Sorry, excuse me. I kind of lost my train of thought there. But, um, oh yeah. By this point, I get it. I get all of it. I get how it all connects. But it doesn't take away from like watching it and experiencing it. And then what's so clever is that as you're watching it, you too become that guy at the beginning of the movie. You become that guy who's trying to make sense of this, who's trying to put all the pieces together. And then where the movie lands and where it takes you, it's just such an overwhelming like sense of immensity. And also it's another very reassuring movie. That's what I love about it. This is a movie much like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind that tells you that love conquers all. Or as you guys can see, I'm kind of a cheesy guy. It's just that I like my cheesiness to be earned. This is a movie that also says like, hey, like everything eventually kind of works itself out. And honestly, like throughout my life, like that's true. I can't tell you how many times in my life, like I've spent a lot of mental energy trying to figure this, figure that out, and then in the end, it just takes care of itself. And I think that's everybody, right? I think there's just been like a lot of times where like we're in this like really troubling moment in our life, or like really like difficult time in our life, and then all of a sudden one day you wake up, it's like, oh yeah, they found that document, you're good, and you're like, what? Like I just had a very recent experience with that at work. Yeah, that's a whole other story though. But yeah, like just like it's just weird. It's just weird how sometimes and amidst like your deepest despairs and all like that, like you it just life just throws a pie in your face. I love that. And sometimes you just need that pie in your face to be like, oh yeah, life's all pies. People love it. Magnolia was his magnum opus. It was so sprawling and heart wrenching. That being said, it is also darkly humorous. Oh, 100%, dude. 100%. Let this go. Oh, okay. All right. I just saw it. Oh, that's what's yeah, dude. Honestly, yeah, Spaceballs is fucking fantastic. PTA's movies that released in years ending in seven are my jam. Boogie Nights. Oh, okay. Oh, I mean, I got complicated feelings on Phantom Thread. That's a you're actually kind of hold on to that. Hold on to that because I'm making a video. I'm launching a new video series. And Paul Thomas Anderson is going to be the first subject of it, and that's all I'm going to say. Sometimes things just break your way. 100%, Mikey. And by the way, I noticed something interesting. Your number two favorite movie is Barry Lyndon, and that's fucking crazy, dude. Because you know what my number one favorite movie is? It's fucking Barry Lyndon. Oh man. Yeah, I watched Barry Lyndon again this weekend. And you know what I love about this movie is that a lot of people think this is Stanley Kubrick's most boring movie. Those are the people who haven't seen it. I used to be that guy. I this is like the last main Kubrick movie that I watched, right? Because on the surface, it's this that that doesn't look all that exciting, right? It's beautiful, yes, it's absolutely beautiful. But I mean, it's Kubrick, you expect that. But yeah, like on the surface, this looks like it's gonna be the most boring fucking movie on the planet, right? But from frame one, it's just like it's like his most entertaining fucking movie. Honestly, like this is his most fun, engaging, like rollicking ride of a movie. And what I love about this movie specifically is that kind of like the Green Knight, kind of like the Lion King. It's a movie about Barry Lyndon, who's kind of a little shit. You know, he's a little shit. He starts off this movie being a very naive asshole, and who's kind of yeah, the guy is a total absolute fucking loser. That's how the movie starts, right? But then you see him ascend up until like the second half of the movie where he's high royalty. You follow this guy from rags to riches, you know? That's so true. That's true. Like he spends the first act of this movie trying to hook up with his cousin. That's very true. Um, but goddamn, what I love about Barry Lyndon, first of all, let's talk about the look of this movie. It's famous for its amazing cinematography and it's no yeah it earns it. I mean, Kubrick is known for making the best movies ever put to film. This is probably his best looking one. The lighting is so fantastic. The costume design, the production design, all that shit is just oh man, like the most realistic depiction. Like it really does make you like forget you're in the modern world and you're you know you really are kind of transported to this period in time and it all feels so real. It feels so lived in and all of that just helps to sell to put you in this world and what Kubrick does with this story of yeah like a fucking loser who wants to fuck his cousin eventually becoming one of the most powerful people in England or amongst the most powerful people in England and all that shit. Like I love what it does because he's a shit. He never stops being a little shit. Like he's a little shit throughout the entire fucking movie. He's just like a little shit that gets more and more power, you know? And the thing is he's a total fucking opportunist. He's just like a weasel. He'll betray anyone, he'll turn his back on anything and all that shit that he needs to get to where he wants to be. And when you think about the fact that this is a 3-hour historical epic, you know, who do we reserve those movies for? We reserve those for great presidents, for some of the greatest historical figures of our time. You know, we for biblical stories, for these grand epics of some of the most important mythical or real figures in human history. So to give that treatment to a little shit like Barry fucking Lyndon, what essentially it does is it kind of shows you that all these people that we think are great, you know, the Napoleons, the King Edwards, all, you know, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, they're all opportunists. They're all there. All the most powerful people who fuck up our lives, all the people who are responsible for all the misery in the world, for all, everything like capitalism, they're all just opportunists. They're all little shits who just don't give a fuck about anything but themselves and become the most powerful people in our society. And yeah, 100%, like Elon Musk is a great example of that. Yes, you're 100% right. And dude, dude, like there's so like Kubrick is my guy. He's like my number one, you know. But um, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned like 2001, right? It's funny you mentioned 2001 because whereas in 2001 Kubrick looks towards the future to imagine who we might become and who we might be. Barry Lyndon was made right after 2001. Oh no, wait, he was after. I think it was after A Clockwork Orange. Okay, I could be wrong about that. I think it was actually. I think he made A Clockwork Orange. But regardless, when you compare it to 2001, like that is a movie that is an optimistic movie about where we're going, about the fucking great big beautiful fucking cosmos in front of us and all that. And this movie is looking towards the past to deal like, okay, how did we get here? You know, and when it lands, and the answer that it lands on is well, we got here because a lot of shitty people kind of just climbed their way to the top. You know, they did what they had to do. And what's even better is that what Barry Lyndon does when he gets all that power, it's like so petty and so bullshit. But then you think about like Donald Trump and then like all these fucking like corrupt at like cinema, you know, and all these people, and it's like, yeah, like that's what these fucking assholes become, you know? Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, every now and then we do get some great leaders and all that shit. We do get some good historical figures and stuff like that, but we always talk about the legend. We always talk about the great big like things that they accomplish and shit like that, you know? And if you only focus on that, if you only focus on the great things of a person's accomplishment, it's easy to make them a fucking hero. It's easy to fucking make examples of them as to like the beacons of humanity. But like what this movie says, that the beacons of humanity are only considered beacons because we don't talk about the whole story. We talk about the legend, you know? And this is a guy who was trying to define his legend and stuff like that, just like all of us, just like we're all trying to define ourselves, to cement our place in history and in the world and stuff like that. But unlike a lot of us who can find inner peace and inner happiness with our small modest accomplishments and all that shit, for some people nothing is ever enough. For some people they're always going to need more and more and more. And those people, they get it. You know? The thing is like shit, I mean, first of all, what can we do against that? Right? But second of all, like if we keep telling these stories, if we keep telling like, you know, these stories these ways, we're gonna get more Barry Lyndons. And if you look at where, you know, the future or the current you know, whatever, the 70s and all that shit when it came out of, like, yeah, that's the inevitable outcome of it all. The 70s were a fucking just as tumultuous a time as the 2030s. You know, it's kind of weird how they parallel in a lot of ways. But Barry Lyndon, what I love about it is that it uses its huge, beautiful canvas with all these fantastic images and all that to paint a turd, you know, a turd of a human being, the most beautiful rendering of a turd, you know, and that's comical and that's funny and all that. But the thing is, when when you do that, when you take the piss out of greatness that much, it brings it down to earth. And you realize that like greatness is fucking overstated, overrated, a myth, a lie, all this bullshit. Like these great myths, these great legends, and all that. Like they're just half truths. They're just like a lot of context is missing around that. And this movie, I think, really, especially like in its final, like the final image of it, you know, the final title card and all that, it just kind of says it all. It says it all. Like all these great men, all these fucking fantastic guys, all these people who rise to power. What does it all lead to? They all fucking die poor. Like they all fucking die with nothing, anyways. Whether it be materially or spiritually, you know. Because even if you succeed to become this elite, right? To reach these levels of society, it comes at a cost, and a lot of that is losing your humanity by the means that you use to get to that level. And this movie is just like that. It's about, yeah, like Barry Lyndon is a bit of a shit, you know, but like he does grow a little bit. But another great thing about this movie is that this is also a movie about savageness and civilization. And what I love about it is that like subtly in the background of this movie is kind of like warfare, right? And you subtly see warfare evolve from like a bunch of dudes just taking their L's, walking into the line of fire, you know. And in this scene, that's just like fucking to this, you know, how do I say it? To like this honorable kind of death and all that. And then you see them hiding behind this concrete wall and shooting more powerful weapons at each other, wiping them out several people at a time. And then sort of where the film ends, right? Like if you compare the first duel in the movie, the opening duel, and then the final duel, like, and then you take into account all that has changed, like, and we all experience it through Barry, right? Like we experience that change through Barry. But much like a lot of these men tend to be narcissistic and make everything about themselves, what we ignored was that in the background, everything else was becoming this other thing, this more violent and more fucked up things and stuff like that. So the final climactic moment of Barry Lyndon, considering how he acts, you know, in that big climactic moment, it's so bitterly ironic. It's so like, it's so cruel. It's so dark, and only like the most rewarding and like super badass way that Stanley Kubrick could like just present something like this. What happens to Barry at the end of this movie is, again, it's borderline comical, you know, but also it's tragic. It's a little bit tragic because it's not like he didn't learn anything from all this. He was humbled by it. As a lot of these, oh fuck, oh crap, oh sorry, he was humbled by his experiences and all that. But ultimately, uh, much like everything around him, you know, changed with him. He can't control how everything. How do I say that? I feel like I'm not saying that well enough. Like, I think the the where Barry ends, I think kind of fuck. You know, I'm sorry, guys. I kind of lost the plot on that one. It also condemns the circumstances that allow a dipshit like Barry to succeed. Exactly, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. There are so many dipshits like Barry Lyndon out there, you know. Leo Vitale's. Oh yeah. That was also like, I could tell you're another Kubrick fan. Yeah, Leon Vitale, like, you know, he's like the last connection we have to Kubrick directly. Him and John Harlan. So I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad they met. I'm glad Leon fucking found his purpose in him and all that shit. God, I feel like there's so much I could say about Barry Lyndon because it is just such a dense movie. But you know, this is kind of just like a general overview of my favorite movies. So when I do post this up line, I'll probably talk a little more on some of the stuff that I missed here. So yeah, that is my top 10, you guys. I'll just go ahead and read it from the top for you. Number 10 was the Green Knight. Number 9 was The Lion King. Number 8 was Mad Max Fury Road. Number 7 was Network. Number 6 was Donnie Darko. Number 5 was Beast of the Southern Wild. Number 4 was Jurassic Park. 3 was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. 2 was Magnolia. And 1 is, once again, Barry Lyndon. Whew, man. It may not even be a top 5 of Kubrick's films. That may just be a testament to his greatness. So no, yeah, 100%. Like it's Kubrick, man. It's Kubrick. Hell yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. I watched it on Sunday morning, dude. And yeah, I love watching this movie. It's Kubrick, dude. This guy. I was telling Lindsay, everything I know about classical music, I know from Kubrick films because I walk away from every Kubrick. Like that guy uses classical music the way that like, James Gunn uses like 70s rock music and hair metal, you know. And it's just like instantly catchy and all that shit. There's sometimes where where I'm just like chilling at work. I'm like dun 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 dun, all this shit. You know, I love the way the Kubrick uses classical music in general, but classical music especially. And yeah, guys, that is my top 10. That is my top 10 movie list, man. Like I've never actually sat down and put them all down like that. But yeah, this is it. Like it's weird. I kind of thought like I was gonna be repeating a lot more directors than I did. And also like I'm surprised by how little there are in terms of like you know, famous auteur directors here. But yeah, that is who composed 2000 and never got. I wonder, did that ever get released? I wonder if that ever got released. You know, yeah, guys, yeah, that's it for today. You know, uh, just a nerd. You know what? You're not alone, man. As you can tell, I'm a fucking nerd too. Uh, you know, I got to see. I do. I like Milos Forman's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I've never actually seen Amadeus. But that's one that I've been wanting to check out for a while. But yeah, guys, that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this journey. I hope that was a fun, unexpected list for you guys. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing some of your top tens as well. That was really cool. I'm glad that a lot of you guys, enough of you guys, have at least seen this movie so we could talk about it a little bit. I didn't spoil too much. Hopefully, I hope for any of these. Hopefully, I didn't spoil too much for any of these movies for anyone who hasn't seen them before. Because yeah, especially Beast of the Southern Wild and Network, those movies that are not as like well known, I cannot recommend them. Spirited Away, honorable mention. Yeah, dude, I gotta get more. Maybe I'll do like a Ghibli month or something. Maybe I'll do that for July. But yeah, again, guys, that's gonna be it for today's installment or today's stream. Let's just call it the Pop Counterculture Variety Hour. Today we did my top 10 favorite movies, but in 2 weeks, guys, we're going to the opposite direction. Thank you, man. Thank you, Lucifer. That's awesome. Thanks for getting so personal. Yeah, well, you know, I had to get a little bit. You know, I feel like you can't talk about why you love your top 10 without talking about why you love your top 10, right? The dipshit drank himself to death, same plot as the yeah, pretty much. But yeah, guys, next in 2 weeks, I'm going in the opposite direction. I'm doing my 10 worst movies that I've ever seen. And that's gonna be fun. You know, negativity is fun sometimes. And you know, I like to come up with fun ways to talk to elaborate on these things. So that's gonna be a fun one, guys. So thanks once again for being here. Thanks once again for watching. Until next time, next week I'm coming back with another These People Hate Cinema. I'm doing another tier list, continuing that. I'll make that list for sure, dude. Yeah, all right, dude. I'm gonna put it on my list right now. Ninja 3. Expect the IF and Love Cinema about that soon. All right, guys. Peace out.